That afternoon, I discovered that a 30-year love can be broken in 30 seconds. My name is Paula Miller, I'm 58 years old, and this is the story I never thought I'd have to tell. I smell freshly brewed coffee every time I think about that afternoon. I don't know why. Maybe because coffee was always our morning ritual. Maybe because that aroma no longer exists in my kitchen. Let me tell you from the beginning. I had gone on a trip to Chicago to visit my sister, Sophia. She was in poor health and asked me to stay with her for a week. Stephen, my husband, told me not to worry, that he would take care of the house, that I should take my time. Go on, Paula. Your sister needs you. I'll be fine here. I trusted him, as I always had. 30 years of marriage builds that blind trust, right? Or at least, that's what I believed. But on the third day, something kept me from sleeping. A strange restlessness, a premonition that tightened my chest. Sophia was doing better. She had someone to look after her, and I felt like I had to go back. I took the first bus in the morning. I didn't tell Stephen. I wanted to surprise him, maybe take him to breakfast at his favorite diner, maybe prepare that pot roast he loved so much. I arrived at the house around noon. The sun was beating down, the street was empty, silent, and then I saw it. A car parked in my driveway, a gray Honda Accord. I knew that car. It was Margaret's car. Margaret Thompson, my son Daniel's mother-in-law, Lucy's mom. What was her car doing there? I stood frozen in front of the gate. My heart was beating fast. I thought of 1,000 reasons. Maybe she had come to drop something off. Maybe she needed to talk to Stephen about the grandkids. Maybe. I opened the door carefully. The house was silent. I climbed the stairs slowly, step by step. The wooden floorboards creaked under my feet. And then I heard it. Laughter. Laughter coming from my room, from our bedroom. Stephen's laughter and a woman's laughter. I stood paralyzed in the hallway. The door was slightly ajar. I didn't know whether to move forward or backward. But something inside me, something stronger than fear, pushed me forward. I put my hand on the door, opened it, and what I saw there, what I saw in my own bedroom, changed my life forever. Stephen was standing in front of the bed. He had 2 open suitcases, his clothes folded on the comforter, shirts, pants, his favorite shoes. And beside him, with a blouse in her hands, helping him pack, was Margaret. They both turned around at the same time. They saw me at the door, and neither of them said a word. I couldn't speak either. The words were gone, the air was gone. I could only stare at them. And in that silence, in that terrible silence, I knew that everything I believed, everything I had built, had just crumbled. Sometimes we trust the wrong people too much. Have you ever been let down by someone you loved? Tell me your story in the comments. I want to read it. Before I tell you what happened in that room, you need to understand who we were. Stephen and I met in 1985. I was 25, working at a stationery store downtown. He would come in every Friday to buy manila envelopes for his office. He always greeted me, always smiled. One day, he invited me for a coffee. I accepted, and that coffee turned into 30 years of a shared life. We got married on May 18th. It rained that day. My mom used to say that rain on a wedding day brought good luck. I believed her. Stephen was an accountant, hard-working, responsible. He wasn't the most romantic man in the world, but he was constant. He came home every night. He helped me with the bills. He played with our son Daniel in the backyard. I remember the mornings. I would make coffee. He would read the newspaper at the kitchen table. I'd serve him a pastry, a cruller, or a bear claw, his favorites. "You know what, Paula?" he would sometimes say. "I don't need much to be happy. This is enough for me." And I believed him. We raised Daniel together. We watched him grow, graduate, and marry Lucy, a sweet, well-mannered girl, the daughter of Margaret Thompson. Margaret was widowed young. She raised Lucy alone. I admired her for that. I thought we had something in common. We both knew what it was to support a family through hard work. We became close. We'd have coffee together when she came to visit Lucy. We talked about the grandkids, recipes, life. I trusted her. I trusted them both. Our life wasn't perfect. We had arguments, like everyone. Stephen was quiet, sometimes too quiet. I was intense, sometimes too intense. But I never thought, Never imagined that Stephen's silence was hiding something like this. I remember one afternoon, it was 2 years ago, I was in the kitchen making lasagna. Stephen came home from work earlier than usual. "Is something wrong?" I asked him. "No, I just wanted to be home," he replied. He sat on the living room couch, turned on the TV, but wasn't watching it. His gaze was lost. I thought he was tired, that he'd had a bad day at the office. Now I know that on that day, maybe that very day, something had already begun. There were small, almost invisible signs. Stephen started going out more. "I'm going to help Margaret with some repairs at her house," he'd say. "I'm going to the bank with her. She's afraid to go alone." I let him go. I thought he was a good man, a good family friend. How foolish I was. Sometimes, when we were in bed, I would ask him, "Are you okay, Stephen?" "Yes, Paula, I'm fine." But his voice sounded distant, as if he were already somewhere else. And I kept trusting. Because after 30 years, what else can you do but trust? As I tell all this, I wonder where you're listening from. Write the name of your city in the comments. There was an exact moment when everything changed. I didn't see it then, but now, with time, I see it as clear as day. It was at my grandson Sebastian's birthday party. He was turning 5. Lucy and Daniel organized a gathering at their house. There were balloons, a chocolate cake, a dinosaur-shaped piñata. The whole family was there. My sisters, the cousins, and of course, Margaret. I remember I arrived early that day to help Lucy with the food. We made pulled pork, coleslaw, and fresh lemonade. The kitchen smelled of spices and barbecue sauce. Stephen arrived later, saying he had to finish some paperwork at the office. He walked in with a smile, greeted everyone, and lifted Sebastian into his arms. "Grandpa!" the boy shouted with that joy only children have. I watched him from the kitchen. I was filled with tenderness. I thought, this is the man I will grow old with, the grandfather of my grandchildren, my partner. How wrong I was. The party went on as usual. The kids played, the adults talked, we ate, we laughed. At one point, I went to the restroom. When I came out, I passed through the hallway and heard voices in the living room. It was Stephen and Margaret. They were talking in low voices, almost whispers. I stopped. I don't know why. Something in their tone caught my attention. "We can't go on like this," Margaret was saying. "I know," Stephen replied, "but it's not the right time yet." There was a silence. "I'm getting tired of waiting," she said. "Give me a little more time, please." I stood paralyzed on the other side of the wall. My heart was pounding. What were they talking about? What were they waiting for? I thought about going in, asking, but something stopped me. Fear, maybe, or denial. I went back to the kitchen. Lucy asked if I was okay. I said yes, that I was just tired. But I wasn't tired. I was scared. That night, when we got home, I asked Stephen, "What were you talking about with Margaret at the party?" He looked at me, surprised. "When?" "In the living room. I heard you talking." He was quiet for a moment, then he smiled. That smile I knew so well. Oh, that. She was asking me for advice on an investment. You know she doesn't understand much about those things. He gave me a kiss on the forehead. "Let's go to sleep, Paula. You're tired." And I believed him, because it was easier to believe than to doubt. But from that day on, something broke inside me. A small, almost imperceptible crack. The following weeks were strange. Stephen started getting calls that he wouldn't answer in front of me. He would go out to the patio, speak in a low voice, and come back as if nothing had happened. "Who was that?" I would ask. "Work," he always said. One Saturday morning, his cell phone rang while he was in the shower. He had left it on the kitchen table. I was making breakfast. I saw the screen light up. Margaret. The phone vibrated 3 times. 4, 5. I didn't answer. I didn't touch it. But I stared at it until it stopped ringing. When Stephen came out of the bathroom, I said, "Margaret called you." "Oh, right. It must be about Lucy's gift. I'll call her back later." Another explanation. There was always an explanation, and I always accepted it. But the crack was getting bigger. One afternoon, while cleaning Stephen's car, I found a receipt. It was from a florist. Red roses, a dozen. I hadn't received flowers in years. "Who are these flowers for?" I asked him that night. He didn't even seem nervous. For the secretary at the office, it was her birthday. We all chipped in. I put the receipt in my purse. I didn't say anything more. But that night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, listening to Stephen's breathing beside me. A deep, calm breath, while I was drowning in doubt. Was I going crazy? Was I making things up that didn't exist? Or was I seeing what I didn't want to see? Months passed. The distance between us grew. We no longer had coffee together in the mornings. He would leave early, come back late. "There's a lot of work," he'd say, and I would nod. I stopped asking because I was afraid of the answers. I took refuge in my routine, in my friends, in my grandchildren, in the afternoon soap operas. Anything not to think, anything not to feel. But the day I decided to go to Chicago to take care of my sister, something in Stephen's eyes unsettled me. He seemed relieved, as if my absence was exactly what he had been waiting for. "Go on and don't worry, Paula. I'll take care of everything here." And I left trusting, naive, blind, without knowing that when I returned, my life would no longer be the same. Sometimes we ignore the signs because it hurts less than facing the truth. Have you ever felt that something wasn't right, but you preferred not to ask? Tell me in the comments. There's something nobody tells you about pain. You can live with it for months without even realizing it's there. I lived those months like a ghost in my own house. I smiled when I was supposed to smile. I cooked when I was supposed to cook. I cleaned, I ironed, I fulfilled my role as a wife. But inside, something was dying, and I did nothing to save it. Because admitting that something was wrong meant facing it, and facing it meant losing Stephen, losing my marriage, losing the life I had built for 30 years. So I chose not to see. I chose to believe every explanation, every excuse, every lie disguised as truth. I remember one afternoon about 2 months before my trip to Chicago. I was at the supermarket buying vegetables for dinner, tomatoes, peppers, onions. Suddenly, I heard a familiar voice. "Paula?" It was my friend Stella, a woman my age. We had been friends for years. We'd known each other since our kids went to the same school. "Stella, so good to see you," I said. But Stella had a strange expression, one of discomfort. "Paula, I need to tell you something," she said in a low voice. My heart sped up. "What happened?" She looked around. We moved a little away from the vegetable stand. "Look, I don't know if I should be telling you this, but the other day I saw Stephen." "Oh?" I said with a forced smile. "Where?" "He was at a restaurant, that Italian place downtown. He was with a woman." My blood ran cold. "A woman?" "Yes." I didn't get a good look at her, but they were at a table in the back, very close, talking. They looked intimate. I tried to stay calm. It was probably a colleague from work or a client. Stephen deals with a lot of people. Every time Stephen left the house, I wondered, who is he with? Where is he really going? I started checking his clothes. I looked for signs, perfumes that weren't mine, lipstick stains, something, anything. But Stephen was careful. I never found anything. One night, while he was sleeping, I took his cell phone. My hands were shaking. I knew it was wrong, that I was invading his privacy, but the pain was stronger than the guilt. I tried to unlock it, but it had a password I didn't know. He had never had a password on his phone before. I left it where it was. I went back to bed. I lay with my back to him and cried silently, very quietly, so he wouldn't hear me. The next day I got up early, made the coffee, the same ritual as always. Stephen came down for breakfast, gave me a kiss on the cheek, as if everything was fine. "Good morning, Paula." "Good morning." I poured myself a cup of coffee. I sat across from him. "Stephen, are you happy with me?" He looked up from the newspaper. "What kind of question is that?" "I don't know. I just feel like we don't talk like we used to, that you're distant." He was quiet for a moment, then smiled. "I'm tired, Paula. Work has me stressed out. But everything is fine between us." "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." He took my hand across the table, looked me in the eyes. "You're my wife. You always will be." And I believed him. Because I needed to believe him. Because the alternative was too painful. The weeks went by. I continued with my routine. I washed, ironed, cooked, smiled, but inside I was falling apart. I stopped taking care of myself. What for? Stephen didn't look at me like he used to anymore. He no longer told me I looked pretty. He no longer held me at night. I gained weight. I stopped wearing makeup. I wore the same clothes every day. My friends asked if I was okay. Yes, just a little tired. My sisters invited me out. Another day. I have too much to do at home. I isolated myself little by little without realizing it, until one day my sister Sophia called, "Paula, I need you to come. I'm feeling very sick. The doctor says it's nothing serious, but I need help." Of course, Sophia. I'm on my way. I told Stephen I would be gone for a week to Chicago. I hoped he would ask me not to go, that he would tell me he was going to miss me, that he wanted me to stay. But he didn't. Go, and don't worry. I'll take care of everything here. And in his eyes, I saw something that chilled my soul. Relief. I packed my bag that same afternoon. Clothes, medicines, a book I never read. Before I left, I stood at the door of our bedroom. I saw the bed where we had slept together for so many years. I saw the pictures on the wall, our wedding, Daniel's birth, birthdays, Christmases, and I felt like I was saying goodbye to something, though I didn't know what yet. Stephen drove me to the bus station. He gave me a kiss on the forehead. "Take care, Paula. You too." I got on the bus, sat by the window, and watched him walk away. And as the bus left the city, as the familiar streets faded behind me, I had a thought that terrified me. What if when I come back, there's nothing to come back to? I tried to shake off the idea. I told myself I was exaggerating, that everything would be fine, that Stephen would be waiting for me. But something inside me, something deep and ancient and wise, knew I was lying. The days in Chicago passed slowly. I took care of Sophia, made her tea, kept her company. We talked about life, about the old days, but my mind was elsewhere. I called Stephen every night. "How are you?" I'd ask. "Fine. Everything's quiet here. Did you eat well?" "Yes, don't worry." Short, empty, mechanical conversations. On the third day, Sophia told me, "I'm better now, Paula. I have someone to look after me. If you need to go back home, you should." And then I felt that urgency, that need to return. It wasn't love calling me back. It was fear. Fear of what might be happening in my absence. I took the bus first thing in the morning. I sent a text to Stephen. "I'm on my way back. I'll be there around noon." But he either didn't see it or didn't want to. The whole trip I tried to calm myself down. I kept telling myself that everything would be fine, that I would get home, that Stephen would be there, that he would hug me, that everything would go back to the way it was. But when the bus reached the station, when I took a taxi home, when I saw my street, my heart was beating so hard I thought it would burst. And when I saw that gray Honda Accord parked in my driveway, I knew that everything I had been denying, everything I had been avoiding, was about to explode in my face. As I tell all this, I wonder where you're listening from. Write the name of your city in the comments. There are moments in life that are etched into your memory with brutal clarity, like photographs that never fade, like scars that never fully heal. That moment in front of my bedroom door was one of them. Stephen stared at me. His eyes I had known for 30 years, suddenly seemed like those of a stranger. Margaret was by his side. She was holding one of Stephen's shirts, a blue one I had ironed just last week. No one spoke. The silence was so thick I could feel it on my skin. Like a pressure on my chest, like water filling my lungs, it was Margaret who broke the silence. "Paula, But she didn't finish the sentence. Because there were no words, no explanation that could make sense of what I was seeing, my voice came out broken, barely a whisper. "What is happening here?" Stephen looked down, let out a long sigh of resignation, as if he had been waiting for this moment for a long time. "Sit down, Paula," he said. "I don't want to sit down," I replied. "I want you to tell me what's happening. Why is she here? Why are you packing your things?" Margaret dropped the shirt on the bed, put a hand to her chest. She looked nervous, guilty. I should go," she said in a trembling voice. "No," I said with a firmness I didn't know I had. "You're not going anywhere. I want answers. Now." Stephen ran a hand through his hair, a gesture I knew well. He did it when he was nervous, when he had to make a difficult decision. "Paula, this wasn't supposed to happen like this. I was going to talk to you, to explain everything." "But what, Stephen?" I interrupted. "But I went on a trip, And you took the opportunity to do this? I pointed to the suitcases, the clothes, everything. He closed his eyes for a moment, took a deep breath, and when he opened them again, there was something different in his gaze, something that terrified me more than anything. Determination. Paula, Margaret, and I. We've been seeing each other for a while. The words fell like stones, one by one, heavy, cold. Seeing each other? I repeated. What does that mean? But I knew what it meant. Of course I knew. I just wanted him to say it, to confess it, to give me the truth I had been denying for months. It means we're in a relationship, Stephen said. I had to hold on to the doorframe. My legs were trembling. A relationship? Since when? There was a silence. 2 years, Margaret said in a low voice. 2 years. 2 years. The phrase echoed in my head, like a drum, like a scream. 2 years, I repeated. 2 years. And I knew nothing. I felt stupid, naive, blind. How had I not seen it? How had I not realized? Paula, I wanted to tell you sooner, Stephen said, but I didn't know how. I didn't want to hurt you. I laughed. It was a bitter, painful laugh. You didn't want to hurt me? And you think this? This doesn't hurt me? He didn't answer. I looked at Margaret, the woman I had had coffee with so many times, with whom I had shared recipes, with whom I had planned the grandkids' parties. How could you? I asked her. I trusted you. I treated you like a friend. Margaret had tears in her eyes. I'm sorry, Paula. I didn't plan for this to happen. It just happened. Things don't just happen, I said with rage. Things happen because you let them, because you seek them out, because you decide to betray the people who trust you. Stephen took a step toward me. Paula, don't talk to her like that. I'm to blame too, more than she is. And in that moment, I understood something terrible. Stephen was defending her. Not me. Her. You're defending her? I asked, incredulous. Seriously? I'm just saying it's not fair to blame only her. I made the decision to be with Margaret. I started this. And what about me, Stephen? What about us? Our marriage, the 30 years we spent together. He was quiet for a moment, then spoke with a voice I had never heard before, cold, distant. Paula, our marriage hasn't been working for a long time. I felt as if I had been punched in the stomach. What? We're not happy together anymore. You know it. I know it. We've been like this for years, just coexisting. I was happy, I said, my voice breaking. I was happy with you, but I wasn't, Paula. And I'm sorry, I truly am, but I can't keep pretending. Tears started streaming down my cheeks. I couldn't control them. I didn't want to control them. So what? You're going to leave with her? Stephen nodded slowly. Yes. When? Today. Now. That's why I was packing. I was going to leave you a letter. I was going to explain everything. A letter, I repeated with contempt. 30 years of marriage and you were going to leave me a letter. Paula. Don't, I interrupted. Don't say my name. Don't talk to me like you know me, like you care about me. Margaret began to cry silently. But I could no longer feel compassion for her. I couldn't feel anything but pain. And our family? I asked. And Daniel and the grandkids? Didn't you think about them? Of course I thought about them, Stephen said. But I also have to think about myself, about my happiness. Your happiness? I screamed. And what about mine? But he didn't answer, because in his mind, my happiness no longer mattered. I wiped my tears with the back of my hand. I took a deep breath. I tried to regain some composure. Do you love her? I asked. Stephen looked at Margaret, and in that look, I saw something I hadn't seen in years. Tenderness. Yes, he replied. I love her. And there it was. The truth. Whole, raw, devastating. My husband loved another woman. And that woman was Margaret, my son's mother-in-law, my grandchildren's grandmother, the woman who sat at my table, who ate from my plates, who received my trust. I want you to leave my house, I said in a firm voice. Both of you, now. Stephen started putting his clothes in the suitcases. Margaret helped him, as if they were a team, as if they had practiced this before. I stood in the doorway watching them, unable to move. In 10 minutes, the suitcases were ready. Stephen carried one, Margaret the other. They passed by me without looking at me. They went down the stairs. I followed them. Each step was a blow. Each step was a goodbye. They reached the front door. Stephen stopped. He turned to me. Paula, go, I said. Just go. He opened his mouth as if to say something more, but he didn't. He walked out the door. Margaret followed him. I watched them put the suitcases in the gray Honda. I watched them get in the car. I watched them drive away. And I stood there, in the doorway of my house, watching the man I had shared my life with drive away with another woman, forever. When the car disappeared at the end of the street, I closed the door, leaned against it, and slid to the floor. There, alone in the hallway of my empty house, I cried like I had never cried in my entire life. I cried for the marriage I had lost, for the man I had trusted, for the life I had built that had crumbled in a matter of minutes. I cried until I had no more tears left, until the sun began to set, until the house was filled with shadows. And when I could finally get up from the floor, when I could finally breathe without my chest hurting, I realized something. This wasn't just my house, it was our house. And now it was filled with memories that hurt me just by looking at them. I went up to the bedroom. I saw the bed where we had slept together. I saw the empty closet where his clothes used to hang. And then I saw something on the pillow. A white envelope, with my name written in Stephen's handwriting. The letter he was going to leave me. I took it with trembling hands, opened it, and read, "Dear Paula, I know this is going to hurt you, and believe me, there is nothing I regret more in this world. But the time has come to be honest. 2 years ago, I got to know Margaret in a different way. At first, we were just friends. We talked, we understood each other. She listened to me in a way I hadn't felt listened to in a long time. And slowly, I fell in love with her. I tried to fight it. I swear I did. I tried to move on with you, but I couldn't. I can't keep lying. I can't keep living a life that no longer feels like mine. You deserve someone who truly loves you, and I deserve to be happy. I hope that one day you can forgive me. Stephen." I read the letter 3 times, and with each reading, I felt more rage. Forgiveness? He was asking me for forgiveness? I tore the letter into 1,000 pieces, let them fall to the floor. And there, in the middle of that room that smelled of betrayal and forgetting, I swore that I would never, ever allow anyone to make me feel so small, so invisible, so foolish again. I still wonder if I did the right thing by letting them go without fighting more. What would you have done in my place? The first days after Stephen left were the darkest of my life. I didn't eat, I didn't sleep. I couldn't do anything but walk around the house like a lost soul, touching the walls, looking at the photographs, trying to understand how I had gotten here, how my life had become this. The house was silent, a silence I had never felt before. Because even when Stephen and I didn't talk, his presence filled the spaces, his footsteps, his breathing, the sound of his keys as he came in. Now there was nothing. Just me, and the echo of my own voice when I dared to speak aloud. Why? I asked the empty walls. Why wasn't I enough? But the walls didn't answer. On the 3rd day, the phone rang. It was Daniel, my son. "Mom, is it true?" His voice sounded broken, hurt. "What's true, honey?" "What Lucy just told me. That Dad left. That he's with Lucy's mom." I closed my eyes. The tears came again. I thought I had no more tears left, but there were always more. "Yes, honey, it's true." I heard a sob on the other end of the line. "It can't be, Mom. It can't be. Dad wouldn't do that. He loves us. He loves all of us." "I know, Daniel. I thought so too. When did it happen? How?" I told him everything. From the beginning, from the suspicions, from Sebastian's birthday party, from the trip to Chicago, from the moment I found them in my room. Daniel listened in silence, only interrupting with stifled sobs. When I finished, there was a long silence. "Mom, I didn't know anything. I swear, if I had known. I know, honey, none of this is your fault. How's Lucy?" I asked carefully. "Devastated," he replied. "She can't believe her mom would do this. She says she feels betrayed, ashamed. She doesn't want to talk to her." I felt a pang of pain for Lucy. She was innocent in all of this, a good girl, a good mother. And now she was carrying the shame of what her mother had done. "Give her a hug for me," I told Daniel. Tell her this isn't her fault, that I don't blame her." "And Dad?" Daniel asked, his voice trembling. "Do you blame him?" The question took my breath away. "I don't know, honey. I don't know yet. I'm trying to understand, to process, to survive." "Can I come see you, Mom?" "No, honey, not yet. I need to be alone for a while. I need to think. But I don't want you to be alone. I'll be fine, I promise." We hung up, and I was alone again in that house that no longer felt like a home. The days turned into weeks. I still didn't go out. My sisters called. My friends knocked on the door, but I didn't open it. I didn't want to see anyone. I didn't want them to see me like this, destroyed, broken, empty. One afternoon, while cleaning out Stephen's closet, I found a shoebox hidden in the back. I opened it, and what I saw inside broke me in a different way. Letters. Dozens of handwritten letters, all from Margaret. I took them out one by one. I read them all. They were love letters. Letters where she told Stephen how much she loved him, how much she missed him, how much she longed for the day they could be together without hiding. There were letters from 2 years ago, letters from a year ago, letters from just 2 months ago. In one of them, Margaret wrote, "My love, I know this is hard for both of us. I know Paula doesn't deserve this, but we don't deserve to live unhappy either. Life is short, and I want to live it with you. Only with you. Soon, my love. Soon we'll be together. I love you more than words can say." I read that letter over and over again. I know Paula doesn't deserve this. At least she had the decency to admit it, to know that what they were doing was wrong, but not enough decency to stop. I kept reading. And in another letter from 6 months ago, Margaret wrote, "Stephen, it's getting harder for me to see you at family gatherings and pretend we're just friends. To watch how Paula serves you coffee, how she smiles at you, how she trusts you. It breaks my heart, but at the same time it makes me angry. Because I know that when you're with her, you're thinking of me, right? Tell me you're thinking of me." I felt nauseous. All those times Margaret came to my house, all those times she ate at my table, had coffee with me, talked about her problems, asked me for advice. She was thinking about my husband. She was lusting after my husband. She was planning to steal my husband. And the worst part of all, I never saw it coming. I put the letters back in the box. I hid them in the back of the closet. I didn't want to see them anymore, but I couldn't throw them away either. Because they were the proof, the evidence, the tangible truth that my marriage had been a lie for 2 years. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, thinking, remembering. And then I remembered something. A year ago, it was at the Mother's Day lunch. The whole family was gathered. Daniel, Lucy, the grandkids, Margaret. I had made a pot roast, mashed potatoes, green beans, everything Stephen liked. We were sitting at the table, toasting, laughing. And at one point, when no one was looking, I saw Stephen and Margaret exchange a look. It was just a second, but in that second, I saw something I didn't understand then. Complicity, desire, a secret. And I ignored it. I thought I was imagining things, that my mind was playing tricks on me, but it wasn't my mind. It was the truth screaming in my face, and I didn't want to listen. I got up from the bed, went down to the kitchen, made a cup of chamomile tea. My hands were shaking. I sat at the table, the same table where we had had breakfast together for 30 years. And then I cried again. But this time I didn't cry for Stephen. I cried for me, for the woman I had been, the woman who trusted, who believed, who loved without reservation. That woman no longer existed, and I didn't know who the woman was who had taken her place. Another month passed. Slowly, I started to leave the house. First, just to the supermarket, then to church, then to visit my sisters. People looked at me with pity. I knew they were talking about me, whispering, "Poor Paula. Her husband left her for her son's mother-in-law. How embarrassing. What a scandal." But I held my head high. I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of seeing me destroyed, even if I was on the inside. One day, while I was at the supermarket buying vegetables, someone touched my shoulder. I turned around. It was my friend Stella, the one who had warned me about Stephen at the restaurant. "Paula," she said softly. "How are you?" "I'm fine," I lied. She looked at me with those eyes that knew everything. "You don't have to pretend with me." And then I broke down. Right there in the middle of the supermarket, between the stands of tomatoes and peppers and onions. Stella hugged me. She let me cry on her shoulder. It's okay. It's okay. Cry as much as you need to. When I calmed down a bit, she took me to a nearby diner, ordered 2 coffees, and we sat down. Tell me, she said, and I told her everything, absolutely everything. The letters, the lies, the betrayal, the pain. She listened without interrupting, just nodding, just squeezing my hand. When I finished, she sighed. Paula, what I'm about to say, you might not want to hear, but I'm going to say it anyway. I wiped my tears. Tell me, Stephen doesn't deserve your tears. He doesn't deserve your pain. He made a choice, and now he has to live with that choice. But I loved him, Stella. I still love him. I know, and that's what hurts the most. But love isn't enough when the other person is gone, when the other person has already chosen another path. So what do I do now? How do I move on? Stella looked at me intently. You get up, you dust yourself off, and you remember who you were before him. Because Paula Miller didn't start with Stephen, and she's not going to end with him. Her words stayed with me. That night, when I got home, I looked at myself in the mirror for the first time in weeks. I saw a 5'8" woman with wrinkles, with gray hair, with tired eyes. But I also saw a woman who had survived, who was still standing, who was still breathing. And then I made a decision. I was not going to let this destroy me. I was not going to let Stephen and Margaret take my dignity away from me. I had lost my marriage. I had lost the man I loved. I had lost the life I knew. But I hadn't lost myself. And that was the only thing that really mattered. I cut my hair. I bought new clothes. I started walking every morning, tending to my garden, reading the books that had piled up on my nightstand. Slowly, the house stopped feeling like a tomb and started to feel like a new beginning. But just when I was starting to feel like I could breathe again, just when I was starting to think that maybe, just maybe, I could be happy again, I received a call that changed everything. It was Daniel. Mom, I need you to come over. It's urgent. What happened, son? It's about Dad and Margaret. There's something you need to know, something that changes everything. My heart sped up. What is it? I can't tell you over the phone. I need you to come to my house. Now. He hung up. I stood in the middle of the living room, holding the phone, my heart beating so loudly I could hear it in my ears. What else could there be? What else could they have hidden from me? I grabbed my keys, left the house, got in the car, and as I drove to Daniel's house, I felt like I was about to discover something that would explain everything, or make it all worse. I didn't know which, but I was about to find out. Sometimes, when you think you know everything, life shows you you're just scratching the surface. Have you ever discovered a truth that completely changed your perspective? Tell me in the comments. The drive to Daniel's house felt eternal. Every traffic light was torture. Every minute that passed, I felt my heart beat harder, faster, more desperately. What could be so urgent? What else was there that I didn't know? I thought of all the possibilities. Maybe Stephen was sick. Maybe he was going to marry Margaret. Maybe they had discovered the relationship had started even earlier than the 2 years they told me. Each thought was worse than the last. When I arrived at Daniel's house, I saw his car parked outside, and Lucy's too. The living room lights were on. I rang the doorbell, my hands shaking. Daniel opened the door. His eyes were red, as if he had been crying. "Mom," he said, and hugged me tightly. I entered the house. Lucy was sitting on the sofa. She had been crying too. When she saw me, she got up and ran to me. "Mrs. Miller, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." I hugged her. Poor girl. She was not to blame for any of this, and yet she carried the weight of the shame. "It's okay, dear. You did nothing wrong." We all three sat in the living room. There was a heavy, uncomfortable silence. "Well," I said, trying to stay calm, "what's so urgent? What happened?" Daniel and Lucy looked at each other as if neither wanted to be the first to speak. Finally, it was Lucy who broke the silence. "Mrs. Miller, I went to see my mom." Her voice broke. Daniel took her hand. "I know I said I didn't want to see her, that I was so angry with her, and I am, but she's my mom and I needed to know. I needed to know why she did what she did." I nodded. I understood that feeling perfectly. that need for answers. And what did she tell you? I asked cautiously. Lucy took a deep breath. Tears started rolling down her cheeks. She told me a lot of things. She told me she fell in love with Stephen 2 years ago, that at first she tried to fight it, that she knew it was wrong but that she couldn't help it. I felt a pang in my chest, but I let her continue. She told me that Stephen loved her too, that he had told her your marriage was already dead, that there was no love left, that he was only staying out of habit. I closed my eyes. Stephen's words from that letter echoed in my head. Our marriage hasn't been working for a long time, but that's not the worst part, Mrs. Miller, Lucy continued, her voice trembling. I opened my eyes. What else is there? My mom. My mom confessed that she was the one who started everything. Why? Why would she do something like that? Lucy sobbed. Because my mom was obsessed with having a partner, with not being alone. When my dad died, she was devastated. She felt invisible, she felt old, and then she saw Stephen. Are you telling me your mom deliberately targeted my husband? Lucy nodded. Yes. She told me that at first, she just admired how he was with you, how he treated you, how he was with the family, and she started fantasizing about having something like that, about having someone like that. I felt sick. And then she started getting closer to him, Lucy continued. She started asking him for favors. If he could help her with some repairs, if he could go to the bank with her, if he could give her advice. All those times Stephen went out to help Margaret. All those times I had let him go without suspicion. And little by little, Daniel said, his voice full of rage, she got into his head, making him believe that you didn't value him anymore, that you didn't see him, that he deserved better. Oh my God, I whispered. My mom told me it took her almost a year, Lucy continued. A year of conversations, of confidences, of playing the victim, of being the understanding woman who listened to him. Until finally Stephen fell for it. I was silent, processing, trying to understand. Margaret hadn't just been the other woman. She had been the architect of my destruction. But there's more, Mom, Daniel said in a grave voice. More? I asked, incredulous. What more could there possibly be? Lucy also found out something about the money. I looked at Lucy. She had her head down, as if ashamed of what she was about to say. Mrs. Miller. When I went to see my mom, I saw she was living in a very nice, very expensive apartment. I asked her how she could afford it. She told me that Stephen was helping her. Stephen is paying for her apartment? I asked, stunned. Not just that, Daniel interjected. He's also paying for her car, her credit cards, everything. I felt the blood rush to my head. With what money? I asked. Stephen doesn't make that much. We've always been careful with money. Always. I stopped. I remembered something. About 6 months ago, Stephen told me we needed to tighten our family budget, that things were tough, that we had to save. I had believed him. I had started buying less, spending less, saving every dollar, while he was spending that money on another woman. Mom, Daniel said, his voice trembling. I checked the bank accounts, the ones in both of your names. Dad has been transferring money to Margaret's account for over a year. How much? I asked. A lot, Mom. Too much. I felt like I was going to be sick. That money was ours. It was our family's money, our future, our. I couldn't finish the sentence. The rage was choking me. There's something else you need to know, Mom, Daniel said, his voice barely audible. I don't know if I can hear any more, I said, my voice broken. You need to know, he insisted. Dad and Margaret are planning to leave the country. The world stopped. What? Lucy overheard her mom talking on the phone with a travel agency. They're planning to move to Italy. In 2 months. Italy? I repeated like an echo. Yes, they're going to sell Margaret's apartment, use the money from the accounts, and go far away. Where no one knows them, where no one can judge them. I got up from the sofa. I couldn't sit still. I paced the living room, trying to breathe, trying to think. Mom, sit down, please, Daniel pleaded. But I couldn't. All this time, I said aloud, all this time I thought Stephen had made a mistake, that he had fallen in love, that things happened without him planning them. But no, this was premeditated, calculated. He knew exactly what he was doing. Mom, he robbed me, I shouted. He robbed me of my money, he robbed me of my years, he robbed me of my trust, he robbed me of everything that was mine. Daniel got up and hugged me. I was trembling from head to toe. And now what do? I asked between sobs. What am I supposed to do with all of this? Whatever you decide, Mom. But we are with you. Always. Lucy came over too. She took my hand. Mrs. Miller, I know my mom did something terrible, something unforgivable, and if you decide you don't want to see me again, I'll understand. I looked into her eyes. I saw in her the same pain I felt, the same sense of betrayal. You are not your mother, Lucy. You are not to blame for any of this, and I will never, ever blame you for her decisions. Lucy burst into tears. I hugged her. We both cried together. Daniel hugged us both. And there, in that living room, the three of us held each other up. Because that's what a family does. It holds on even when everything is falling apart. I stayed at Daniel's house that night. I didn't want to be alone. I couldn't be alone. I lay in the guest room, but I didn't sleep. My mind wouldn't stop, racing through everything I had discovered. Margaret had planned it all. Stephen had been stealing money from me. They were going to leave the country. And I was going to be left here, alone, empty, with nothing. But then I remembered something my mom told me many years ago when I was a little girl and had fallen off my bike. Paula, life will knock you down many times, but what's important isn't how many times you fall, it's how many times you get back up. I got up from the bed, went to the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water. And there, in the darkness of that unfamiliar kitchen, I made another decision. I was not going to let Stephen and Margaret get away with this. I was not going to let them rob me and disappear as if I didn't matter. I was not going to be the silent victim. I was going to do something. I didn't know what yet, but I was going to do something. The next morning, I woke up early. Daniel was already up, making coffee. Good morning, Mom. Did you sleep well? No, but I'm okay. I sat at the kitchen table. Daniel poured me a cup of coffee. Mom, I know this has all been very hard, but I want you to know that I'm going to talk to Dad. I'm going to tell him that what he's doing is wrong, that— No, I interrupted. What? Don't talk to him. Not yet. Why not? I took a sip of coffee. I took a deep breath. Because first, I need to think. I need to decide what I'm going to do. And when I decide, when I'm ready, then you can talk to him. Daniel looked at me, confused. What are you planning, Mom? I smiled. It was a sad smile, but also a determined one. I'm planning to get my life back, son. I'm planning to get my dignity back. And how are you going to do that? I don't know yet, but I'm going to figure it out. I stayed at Daniel's house for 2 more days. During those 2 days, my mind never stopped working. I thought about confronting Stephen, but what good would it do? I had already confronted him once. I had already asked for explanations, and he had chosen to leave anyway. I thought about confronting Margaret, but she had shown who she was. A woman without scruples, without a conscience, without remorse. I thought about hiring a lawyer, fighting for the money, making public everything they had done. But then I realized something. I didn't want revenge. I wanted peace. And peace wasn't going to come from the outside. It was going to come from within. I had to find a way to forgive, not for them, but for me. Because if I didn't forgive, if I kept carrying all that rage, I would end up destroying myself. And Stephen and Margaret had already taken too much from me. I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of taking my peace too. I went back to my house. I walked through the door, looked around. Everything was the same, but at the same time, everything was different, because I was different. I went up to my room. I opened Stephen's closet, took out all the clothes he had left behind. All of them. I put them in bags, one by one. Then I went down to the garage, found the old boxes, filled them with his books, his records, his photographs, everything that was his, everything that reminded me of him. I packed it all. And when I was done, I called Daniel. Son, please come over. I need your help moving some things. What things, Mom? Your father's things. I'm going to send them to wherever he's living now. There was a silence. Are you sure, Mom? Completely sure. Daniel arrived that afternoon with a pickup truck. Between the two of us, we loaded all the boxes, all the bags. Everything that had been Stephen's left my house that day. And when the last box went out the door, I felt like I could breathe again. "Mom," Daniel said before he left, "I'm proud of you." "Why, son?" "Because you're being strong, because you're choosing to move forward, because you're not letting this beat you." I hugged him. "Thank you, son, for being here, for supporting me, for being the man your father should have been." Daniel left, and I was alone in my house. But this time, the loneliness didn't feel heavy. It felt liberating. I walked through each room, touching the walls, looking at the empty spaces, and in each empty space I saw a possibility. A possibility to start over, to rediscover myself, to be whoever I wanted to be, without having to be someone's wife. I slept better that night than I had in months. And when I woke up the next morning, the sun was streaming through the window in a different way, brighter, warmer, as if the universe was telling me, "Go on, Paula, your life is just beginning." I still wonder if I did the right thing by letting them go without fighting more. What would you have done in my place? 3 months passed from the day I took all of Stephen's things out of my house. 3 months in which my life began to change in ways I never imagined. At first it was hard, very hard. There were days when I would wake up and for a second, I'd forget Stephen was gone. I would reach for his side of the bed and find only cold sheets. Those were the worst days. But slowly, very slowly, I began to get used to my new reality. I started doing things I had stopped doing during the marriage. Small things, things that seemed silly, but that to me meant freedom. I signed up for dance classes, salsa, something I always wanted to do but Stephen said was ridiculous at our age. I started painting. I bought canvases, brushes, oil paints. And even though I had no talent, watching the colors mix on the canvas brought me peace. I started seeing my friends again, Stella, the women I had neglected while locked in my pain. And little by little, I began to remember who Paula Miller was before she was Stephen's wife. She was a strong woman, a woman with dreams, a woman with her own voice, and that woman was still there. She was just buried under years of marriage and routine, but she was ready to come out. One afternoon, while I was at the market buying flowers for my house, I saw someone familiar. It was Margaret. My blood ran cold. She was alone, looking at some vegetables. Her hair was shorter. She was more put together than before. She looked different. For a moment, I thought about turning around, leaving, avoiding the confrontation. But something inside me stopped me. No, I wasn't going to run away. Not anymore. I walked toward her slowly, my heart pounding. When I was close, I said her name. "Margaret." She turned. When she saw me, she went pale. She froze. "Paula, I need to talk to you," I said in a firm voice. "I don't think that's a good idea," she replied, her voice trembling. "I'm not asking you. I'm telling you." She looked around. People were watching us. She lowered her voice. "All right, but not here. We can go somewhere else. There's a coffee shop 2 blocks away. I'll see you there in 10 minutes. I didn't wait for her answer. I turned and walked out of the market. 10 minutes later, I was sitting at a table in the coffee shop. I ordered a black coffee. My hands were shaking a little, but I forced myself to stay calm. Margaret came in, saw me, walked slowly to the table, and sat across from me. Neither of us spoke for a moment. Finally, I broke the silence. "Why did you do it?" Margaret looked down. "Paula, don't give me excuses. Just tell me the truth. Why did you destroy my marriage?" She took a deep breath. When she looked up, she had tears in her eyes. "Because I was lonely. Because I was scared. Because I saw in Stephen what I had lost when my husband died." "So what you felt wasn't love," I said. "It was fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of growing old alone. Maybe at first," she admitted, "but later, I did fall in love with him. And that justifies what you did? That justifies you deceiving me, coming to my house, eating at my table, pretending to be my friend while you stabbed me in the back?" Margaret began to cry. "No, it doesn't justify it. Nothing I can say justifies it. I know what I did was wrong, very wrong, and if I could go back in time." "But you can't," I interrupted. "The damage is done. The marriage is destroyed. The family is broken. And all because of your selfishness." "I know," she sobbed. I know, and I'm sorry. Every day I hate myself for what I did. I looked at her intently, searching her eyes for something. I don't know what. True remorse, regret. And yes, I saw it. It was there, but it didn't matter anymore. Lucy told me everything, I said. She told me you were the one who started it all, that you planned it, that you deliberately seduced Stephen. Margaret covered her face with her hands. Yes, it's true. It's all true. I also know that Stephen is giving you money. Money that belonged to both of us. Our family's money. Paula, I didn't ask him for. I don't care if you asked for it or not. You accepted it, knowing where it came from, knowing it was money he was stealing from me. You're right, she said in a broken voice. You're absolutely right, and I know you're planning to leave the country, to run away, to escape, as if what you did doesn't matter. Margaret looked up, wiped her tears. We're not going anymore. I was quiet. I hadn't expected that. What? We're not going to Italy anymore. Stephen canceled everything. Why? Because Daniel confronted him. He told him that if we left, he would never speak to him again, that he would lose his son, his grandchildren, his family, and Stephen. Stephen couldn't do it. I felt something in my chest. I don't know if it was relief or sadness. Maybe both. So you're staying here, I said. Yes, but things are not good between us. What do you mean? Margaret sighed. Stephen is regretful, not of being with me, but of how things happened, of hurting you, of losing his son's respect, of breaking up the family. Well, he should have thought of that before. I know, and I've told him that, but he's not the same. He doesn't talk to me like before. He doesn't look at me like before. It's as if he's realizing everything he lost. I was silent, processing her words. And you? I asked her. Are you sorry? Margaret looked me in the eye. Yes, I'm sorry. Not for loving Stephen, but for the way I did it. For hurting you, for hurting Lucy, for destroying so many things because of my selfishness. Does Lucy speak to you? No. It's been 3 months. She sent me a text saying she needed time, that she couldn't see me, that every time she looks at me she feels ashamed. I saw genuine pain in her eyes. A mother's pain, the pain you feel when you've lost the respect of your own child. And for a moment, just for a moment, I felt pity for her. But pity didn't change anything. Do you know what hurts me the most, Margaret? I said. What? It's not that Stephen fell in love with another woman. That can happen. The heart is unpredictable. What hurts the most is that you both lied to me. That you looked me in the eye and deceived me. That you made me feel like I was crazy for suspecting. That you stole my chance to decide for myself what to do with my life. Margaret nodded silently. You're right. And there's nothing I can say to fix that. No. There's nothing. I took a sip of my coffee. It was cold now, but I drank it anyway. Does Stephen know you're here? I asked. No, he doesn't go out much. He stays cooped up in the apartment, working, thinking. And you? I try to get on with my life, but it's hard, very hard. I lost my daughter. I lost the respect of the family. I lost everything. You chose to lose all that, I reminded her. Nobody forced you. I know. We were silent for a while longer. The noise of the coffee shop filled the space between us. Finally, I spoke. Margaret, I came here because I needed to tell you something. Tell me. I forgive you. She was stunned. She looked at me as if she hadn't heard correctly. What? I forgive you, I repeated. Not for you, but for me. Because I've spent the last few months carrying around anger and pain, and that anger is destroying me, and I'm not going to let it destroy me anymore. Tears rolled down her cheeks again. Paula, I don't need you to say anything. I just need you to understand something. Forgiving you doesn't mean what you did was okay. It doesn't mean we're going to be friends. It doesn't mean I'm going to forget. It means I'm no longer going to let this consume me. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you, Paula. And there's something else I need to tell you. What? The money Stephen gave you. The money that was from our family. I want it back. Margaret went pale. Paula, I've already spent a lot of that money. The apartment, the car, I don't care, I interrupted. Find a way. Sell everything if you have to. But that money belongs to me, and I'm going to get it back. Okay, she said, her voice trembling. You're right. I'll talk to Stephen. We'll find a way. You have 2 months, I said firmly. If I don't have my money back in 2 months, I'm going to hire a lawyer, and I'm going to make this public. The whole city will know what you did. And believe me, Margaret, you don't want that. No, I don't want that. I promise you'll have your money. I got up from the table, left a bill to pay for my coffee. One last thing, I said before I left. What? Take care of Stephen. Because after everything you sacrificed to have him, after everything you destroyed, it would be a shame for you to realize it wasn't worth it. And with that, I walked out of the coffee shop. I walked down the street. The sun was setting. The sky was orange and pink, beautiful. And as I walked, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. It wasn't a complete peace. There was still pain, still scars, but it was a start. The following days were different, lighter. I no longer thought about Stephen all the time. I no longer wondered what he was doing, who he was with, if he was happy. I no longer cared. My focus was on me, on my healing, on my future. One afternoon, Daniel came to visit. He brought the kids, Sebastian and Sophia, my 3-year-old granddaughter. The children ran through the house, filling it with laughter, with life. "Mom, you look different," Daniel said as we had coffee in the kitchen. "Different how? More peaceful. More you." I smiled. I feel more like me, for the first time in a long time. "I'm glad, Mom, really." "How's your dad?" I asked, not because I cared, but because I knew Daniel needed to talk about it. Daniel sighed. "Not good. He's sad, regretful. He says he wants to talk to you." "And what did you tell him?" "That he has to respect your time. That if you ever wanted to talk to him, you would seek him out, but that he shouldn't pressure you." "Thank you, son. Will you ever forgive him?" he asked cautiously. I thought about his question. The truth was, I didn't know. I don't know, Daniel. Maybe someday. But that day isn't today, and it might not be tomorrow. It might take years, or it might never come, and that's okay. I don't have to forgive him to move on. Daniel nodded. "You're so strong, Mom. Stronger than I thought. I'm not strong, son. I'm just surviving, day by day. Well, that's more than a lot of people manage to do." That night, after Daniel and the kids left, I sat in my garden, the same garden that had been neglected for months. There were flowers I had planted a few weeks ago, roses, sunflowers, daisies. I watched them grow, watched them open up to the Sunday, and I understood something. I was like those flowers. I had been withered, abandoned, without light. But now I was growing again, slowly, but growing, and that was enough. A few days later, I received a call from an unknown number. I answered cautiously. "Hello, Paula? It's Stephen." My blood ran cold. I didn't expect to hear his voice. "What do you want?" I asked coldly. "I need to talk to you, please. We have nothing to talk about." "Yes, we do. It's about the money. Margaret told me you went to see her, that you asked her to give you the money back." "That's right. That money is mine. I know. And you're right. I'm going to give it all back to you." I was surprised. I didn't expect him to agree so easily. "When?" "In 2 weeks. I'm going to sell some things and I'll make the transfer to your account." "All right." There was an awkward silence. "Paula, can we meet? Just once. I need to tell you something." "No. Please. I'm only asking for a few minutes." "Stephen, I have nothing to say to you. And honestly, I'm not interested in what you have to say to me. Paula, give me my money back, and then please, leave me alone." "That's all I ask." I hung up. My hands were shaking, but I felt proud. Proud for setting boundaries, proud for saying no, proud for choosing my peace over his need to feel forgiven. 2 weeks later, I received a bank transfer. It was all the money Stephen had taken from me, down to the last cent. Along with the transfer was a message. "Paula, here's the money. I'm so sorry for all the pain I caused you. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I want you to know that I never intended to hurt you. You were a good wife, a good woman, and I was an idiot for not valuing you. I hope you'll be happy. I really hope so. Stephen." I read the message 3 times. Then I deleted it. Not because I was angry, but because I no longer needed to keep it. I no longer needed his regret to heal. I no longer needed his validation to know my worth. I already knew who I was, and that was enough. As I tell all this, I wonder where you're listening from. Write the name of your city in the comments. A year, a whole year, since the day I found Stephen packing his bags with Margaret in my room. A year in which my life had done a 360-degree turn. I was no longer the same woman I had been. I was no longer the Paula who waited for her husband with coffee ready every morning. I was no longer the Paula who lived to please others. Now, I was the Paula who lived for herself. I had gone back to work, something I hadn't done since before I got married. I got a job at a bookstore downtown. It didn't pay much, but it wasn't about the money. It was about having a purpose, about having something of my own. My days were full. Dance classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays, painting on Saturdays, coffee with my friends on Sundays, time with my grandkids when Daniel brought them over. It was a simple life, but it was mine, and that made it perfect. One Thursday afternoon after my dance class, I was waiting for the bus when I saw someone familiar crossing the street. It was Stephen. He was walking slowly, head down, hands in his pockets. He looked old, older than I remembered. He had more gray hair, more wrinkles, his shoulders slumped, as if carrying an invisible weight. I stood frozen. I didn't know whether to hide or stay where I was. I decided to stay. Stephen looked up, saw me, and stopped dead in his tracks. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then, slowly, he walked toward me. "Paula," he said, his voice hoarse. "Stephen," I replied neutrally. "How are you?" "I'm well." "And you?" He was quiet for a moment. He looked at the ground, then at me. "Not so good, to be honest." I didn't respond. I just looked at him, waiting. "You look different," he continued. "You look good. Happy. Thank you. Are you still living in the house?" "Yes. That's good." That house was always more yours than mine. There was an awkward silence. The sound of traffic filled the space between us. "Paula, I wanted to tell you something," Stephen said, his voice trembling. "I'm listening. I made the biggest mistake of my life when I left you. I know that now. I know it every day when I wake up, every night when I go to bed. Losing you. Losing you was losing everything." His words hung in the air, but they no longer touched me, no longer hurt me. "And Margaret?" I asked. Stephen winced. "Margaret and I aren't together anymore." That did surprise me. "What happened?" "What was bound to happen," he said bitterly. "Turns out when you build something on lies and betrayal, it doesn't last. It can't last. When did you break up?" 3 months ago. We started fighting all the time, about everything. She complained that I wasn't the same, that I had changed, that I didn't look at her like I used to. And it was true. Yes, it was true. Because every time I looked at her, I saw what I had lost to be with her. I saw your face, I saw Daniel, I saw my destroyed family. "So you left her?" "No. She left me." I almost laughed, but I stopped myself. "She left you?" "Yes. She said she was tired of living with a ghost, tired of competing with your memory. That she deserved to be with someone who truly loved her." "And you? Did you love her?" Stephen was quiet for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. I thought I did. But now I realized that what I felt wasn't love. It was an escape. It was the thrill of something new, the ego of feeling wanted. But it wasn't love. The real love. I had that with you. And I was too stupid to see it. I didn't know what to say. Part of me felt satisfaction. Part of me felt sadness. "Where are you living now?" I asked. "In a small apartment on the other side of town. Alone. Very alone. And work?" "I lost some clients." When the word got out about what I did, when people found out, many stopped trusting me. They say if I cheated on my wife, how can they trust me not to steal from them? There was karma in that. A poetic justice. "I'm sorry," I said. And it was true. Not because I wanted him to do badly, but because I was seeing a man destroyed by his own choices. "Don't be sorry. I deserve it all. I deserve it." The bus was coming. I could see it in the distance. "I have to go," I said. "Paula, wait." Do you think you could ever forgive me? I looked him in the eyes. Those eyes I once knew so well. I've already forgiven you, Stephen. Really? Yes. I forgave you months ago. Not for you, but for me, because I couldn't keep carrying that resentment. Then, do you think we could try again? Start over? And there it was. The question I might have once dreamed of hearing, but not anymore. No, Stephen, we can't. Why not? I love you, Paula. I still love you. Maybe you love me, or maybe you just miss the comfort of what we had. But it doesn't matter anymore, because I've moved on, and I'm not going back. Paula, please. Stephen, listen to me carefully. I wish you the best. I really do. I hope you find peace. I hope you learn from your mistakes. But that peace and that learning, you won't find them with me. The bus pulled up in front of us. Take care, Stephen. I got on the bus. I sat by the window. I watched him stand there, alone in the middle of the street, watching me leave. And as the bus pulled away, I felt a strange mix of emotions. Sadness for the man he once was, relief that he was no longer my problem, and peace. So much peace. Because I had finally closed that chapter of my life. When I got home, I called Daniel. I needed to tell him. Mom, are you okay? He asked, worried. Yes, son, I'm okay. Better than okay, actually. I told him everything. The encounter, the conversation, everything. And how do you feel? He asked. Free, I replied. For the first time in a long time, I feel completely free. I'm glad, Mom, you deserve it. How is Lucy? Better. She's going to therapy. She's trying to heal her relationship with Margaret. It's hard, but she's making the effort. Give her a hug for me. I will. Mom, can I tell you something? Of course, son. I'm proud of you. Very proud. The way you faced all of this. With dignity, with strength. You're an example to me. My eyes filled with tears. Thank you, son. Those words mean more than you can imagine. That night, I slept soundly. No nightmares, no anxiety, just peace. The next few months were calm, routine, and I loved that routine. Until one day, 6 months after my encounter with Stephen, I got a call from Daniel. Mom, I need to tell you something. His voice sounded serious. What happened? It's about Dad. A knot formed in my stomach. Is he okay? Yes. Well, physically, yes. But he's doing very badly emotionally. I went to visit him a few days ago. Mom, his apartment is depressing. He has almost no furniture. He's alone. He's not eating well. He looks destroyed. I felt a pang in my chest. Why are you telling me this, son? Because I thought you should know. I'm not telling you so you'll do something. I just thought you should know. Are you helping him? I try. I go see him when I can. I bring him food. We talk. But it's hard, Mom. It's hard to see my dad like this. I know, son. I'm sorry. You don't have to be sorry. He put himself in this situation. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake thinking about Stephen, thinking about the man he once was, the father of my son, the grandfather of my grandchildren. I didn't feel love for him. That had been gone for a long time. But I felt compassion. Compassion for a man who had destroyed his own life by making bad decisions. The next morning, I did something I never thought I would do. I called Stephen. Paula? He answered, surprised. Hello, Stephen. Daniel told me you're not doing well. There was a silence. I'm surviving. Have you eaten today? Not much. I don't have much of an appetite lately. I'm going to bring you some food. I'll make something and stop by your apartment. You don't have to do that, Paula. I know, but I'm going to do it anyway. I hung up before he could say anything else. I spent the morning cooking. I made rice, stewed chicken, beans, tortillas, everything Stephen liked. I wasn't doing it for love. I was doing it for humanity. Because despite everything that had happened, he was still the father of my son, and I couldn't stand by and watch him destroy himself. When I got to his apartment, I knocked on the door. Stephen opened it, and what I saw broke my heart. He was much thinner. He had deep dark circles under his eyes. His clothes were too big for him. The apartment behind him was dark, empty. Paula, he said, his voice cracking. I brought food, I said simply. I went inside, put the things in the kitchen. There was almost nothing there, just a small table, a chair, an empty refrigerator. Sit down, I told him. I prepared a plate, served it to him, and sat across from him. Eat. He started eating slowly, in silence. I just watched him. When he finished, he looked up. Thank you, he said, with tears in his eyes. You're welcome. Why did you do this? After everything I did to you? Because even though I don't love you anymore, even though I don't want to be with you, I can still be compassionate. I can still be human. Stephen started to cry. Not sobs, but silent tears that rolled down his cheeks. I've lost everything, Paula. Everything. My family, my job, my dignity, my happiness, and it's my fault. It's all my fault. Yes, it is your fault. But you can learn from this. You can change. You can be better. Do you think I can ever get back any of what I lost? I don't know, Stephen. That's up to you. It depends on the choices you make from now on. I got up, left the containers of food in the refrigerator. There's food here for several days. Eat well, take care of yourself, and get help. Go to therapy. Talk to someone. You can't go on like this. Will you come back? No, this is all I can do. The rest is up to you. I walked to the door. Paula, he called. I turned. Thank you for this. For everything. For being a better person than I was. I nodded and left. As I drove back home, I thought about everything that had happened, about how karma had caught up with Stephen and Margaret. Stephen had lost his family, his reputation, his peace. Margaret had lost her daughter, her dignity, and the man for whom she had sacrificed everything. It wasn't a revenge I had planned. It was life. Life collecting its debts. And I had come out of all of this stronger, wiser, more myself. That night, I sat in my garden. The flowers I had planted were in full bloom, beautiful, vibrant, full of life, like me. And for the first time in a long time, I smiled. A genuine, complete smile. Because I had survived. Not only had I survived, I had flourished. And as I looked at the stars in the night sky, I knew with certainty that my story didn't end with pain and betrayal. It ended with redemption, with peace, with a new beginning. And that was more than many people ever achieve. He once called me crazy for suspecting. Years later, I saw that same emptiness in his eyes as he stood alone in that apartment. Life always collects its debts. Have you seen karma deliver justice in your own life? Share your story in the comments. It's been 3 years since that day I opened my bedroom door and saw Stephen packing his bags with Margaret. 3 years that feel like a lifetime. Today, I'm 61 years old, and I can say with certainty that I am happier now than at any other time in my life. It's not a loud happiness, not a happiness of big events or extraordinary achievements. It's a quiet, deep happiness. The happiness of knowing myself, of respecting myself, of loving myself. Every morning I wake up in my house, the house I once shared with Stephen, but which is now completely mine. I've been redecorating it, little by little. There are no more wedding pictures on the walls. Now there are paintings that I did myself. There are pictures of my grandchildren, of my friends, of the places I've visited, because yes, I have traveled. Something I never did with Stephen because he always said we didn't have the money or it wasn't the right time. I've been to New Orleans, to Santa Fe, to the coast of Maine. Sometimes alone, sometimes with my sisters, sometimes with my friends. And on each trip I've discovered a part of myself that had been dormant. The bookstore where I work has become my sanctuary. I spend my days surrounded by books and people who love them. I make recommendations, organize book clubs, listen to stories. And sometimes, when a woman comes in with that lost look I knew so well, I make her a cup of tea and I listen. Because I know what it's like to feel broken. I know what it's like to feel your life is over. And I also know that it's not true. That life doesn't end when a man leaves. That life is just beginning when you decide that you matter. My grandchildren are my joy. Sebastian is 8 now, Sophia is 6, and Daniel and Lucy just had another baby, a girl. They named her Paula. When Daniel told me her name, I cried. I cried with happiness, with pride, with love. Mom, we want her to have your name because you're the example of what we want her to be. A strong, brave woman who doesn't give up, he told me. There are no words to describe what I felt in that moment. Daniel and I are closer than ever. He calls me every day, visits often, includes me in everything. And Lucy. Lucy has become the daughter I never had. She healed too. Little by little, she forgave her mom, though their relationship never went back to being the same. Mrs. Miller, you taught me that forgiving doesn't mean forgetting, and that setting boundaries isn't being a bad person, it's taking care of yourself, she told me once. She told me that Margaret now lives in another state, far away, alone. She works in an office, lives in a small apartment. She sees Lucy once or twice a year. She's okay, I think, Lucy said. She's not happy, but she's surviving. I didn't feel satisfaction hearing that, just sadness. Sadness for a woman who sacrificed so much for so little. And Stephen. Stephen is still in the city. He lives in that same apartment. His business has improved a bit. He got some clients back. It's not what it used to be, but he survives. Daniel sees him now and then. He tells me he's better, that he's going to therapy, that he's trying to be a better person. And he's alone, I asked once. Yes, Mom. He's alone. I think he understands that he needs to be, that he needs to learn to live with himself before trying to be with someone else. I haven't seen him again since that day I brought him food. And that's okay. Sometimes I wonder if he thinks of me, if he regrets his choices, if he imagines what his life would have been like if he hadn't betrayed me. But they are just passing thoughts. I don't get stuck on them anymore. Because the truth is his life is no longer my problem. And mine. Mine is beautiful. This morning I woke up early, made coffee, that dark roast I love so much. I sat in my garden. The sun was just rising. The sky was painted in oranges and pinks. The flowers I planted 3 years ago have grown so much. The garden is full of color, of life. And as I drank my coffee, I thought about everything I've learned. I learned that self-love is not selfishness, it's survival. I learned that forgiving is not forgetting, it's letting go. I learned that you can love someone for 30 years and still have the courage to let them go when they hurt you. I learned that betrayal says more about the person who betrays than the person betrayed. I learned that karma is real, that life has a mysterious way of balancing things, that bad choices have consequences, and that those consequences don't always come from the outside. Sometimes they come from within, from guilt, from regret, from the emptiness of having lost something precious. I learned that it's never too late to start over, that at 58 you can discover who you really are, that you can reinvent yourself, that you can flourish. And I learned that happiness doesn't depend on having someone by your side. Happiness depends on being okay with yourself. My life now is full of small moments that bring me joy. The hug from my grandchildren, the laughter of my friends at Sunday coffee, the smell of new books at the bookstore, the taste of hot chocolate on a cold afternoon, the silence of my house, a silence that no longer feels empty, but full of peace, the old Motown music I play while I cook, songs that make me remember that I have lived, that I have loved, that I have lost, but that I am still here. Sometimes, very rarely, I think about that Paula who stood at her bedroom door, watching her world collapse, and I wish I could hug her, tell her that she's going to be okay. That it's going to hurt a lot, but that she will survive. And not only that, she will grow, she will heal, she will flourish in ways she never imagined. That the version of herself on the other side of the pain is stronger, wiser, more whole than she ever was. Last week, something happened that made me smile. I was at the bookstore organizing some books when a woman came in. She must have been about 55. Sad eyes, slumped shoulders. "Excuse me," she said, her voice trembling. "Do you have any books on how to get over a betrayal?" I looked her in the eyes and saw my own reflection from 3 years ago. "Yes," I said with a kind smile. "I have several. But before I show you, would you like a coffee?" She seemed surprised. "Oh well, if it's not too much trouble, it's no trouble at all. I made 2 cups of coffee." We sat in the little reading corner of the bookstore, and there, for an hour, she told me her story. Her husband had cheated on her with her best friend. They had been deceiving her for 2 years. She had just found out. It was my story, with different names, but it was my story. When she finished speaking, she was crying. "I don't know how I'm going to get over this," she sobbed. "I feel like I'm going to die, like my life is over." I took her hand. "Your life is not over. I know, because I went through the same thing. And look at me. I'm here. I'm okay. I'm happy. Really? Can you really get over it? Yes. It won't be easy. It won't be fast, but yes, you can. If I could, you can too. I told her my story. Not all of it, just enough for her to know I understood her pain. So what do I do now? She asked. Now, you allow yourself to feel. Cry all you need to cry. Be angry for as long as you need to be angry. But when you're ready, when the pain starts to subside, start looking for who you are without him. Start remembering that you existed before him, and you will continue to exist after him. And forgiveness? How do I forgive something like that? You forgive when you're ready, not before. And you do it for you, not for him. Because resentment is a poison that only hurts you. But forgiving doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean going back. It means letting go. It means stopping carrying that weight. She wiped her tears. Thank you, really. Thank you for listening, for giving me hope. That's what we women are for, to hold each other up. When she left, I thought about that conversation, and I realized something. My pain had not been in vain. Everything that had happened, everything I had suffered, had turned me into someone who could help other women, someone who could be a light in their darkness, and that gave meaning to everything. This afternoon, as I write these lines in my journal, I look out the window. The sun is setting. The sky is painted in beautiful colors. My coffee is warm on the table. It smells of cinnamon and home. I hear the birds singing in the garden, and I feel a deep gratitude. Gratitude for having survived. Gratitude for having learned. Gratitude for being here now, being this version of myself. I don't know what the future holds for me. I don't know if I'll ever love again. I don't know if I'll ever trust someone that way again. And it's okay not to know. Because I've learned that I don't need to have all the answers. I just need to have peace. And peace is exactly what I have. If someone were to ask me, Paula, was all that pain worth it? I would answer, the pain is never worth it. But what I learned from the pain, that was worth it. Because that pain taught me to value myself. It taught me to set boundaries. It taught me that I can be alone without feeling lonely. It taught me that someone else's betrayal does not define my worth. And it taught me that I can get up again and again, no matter how many times life knocks me down. To the women listening to this story, to the women who are going through something similar, I want to say something. I know it hurts. I know. I know you feel like your world is over, that you'll never be happy again, that you'll never trust again, but I promise you, you will. You will be happy again, you will trust again, you will love again. But first, you have to love yourself. You have to remember that you are valuable, that you are enough, that you deserve respect, loyalty, true love. And if someone can't give you that, if someone chooses to betray you, deceive you, hurt you, that person does not deserve you. It doesn't matter how many years you spent together. It doesn't matter how much you invested in that relationship. It doesn't matter how much you love him. If that person doesn't value you, let them go. And I know it's hard. I know, because I lived it too. But on the other side of that pain, on the other side of those tears, on the other side of that betrayal, there is a life waiting for you. A better life. A life where you are the protagonist. A life where you decide. A life where you matter. And that life is beautiful. So don't give up. Don't let the pain destroy you. Use it, learn from it, grow through it. And when you're ready, when you've healed, share your story. Because your story could be the light someone else needs to find their way out of their darkness. I am here today, at 61 years old, happy, at peace, whole. Not because I found another man to complete me, but because I found myself. And I discovered that I was already complete on my own. I always was. I just needed to remember it. And if my story helps just one woman to open her eyes, if my story gives strength to just one woman to get up, if my story shows just one woman that it is possible, then everything, absolutely everything I went through will have been worth it. Thank you for listening to the end. Thank you for letting me share my story with you. And remember, you are stronger than you think, you are more valuable than you imagine, and you deserve to be happy, always. With all my heart, Paula Miller, thank you for listening to the end. If this story touched your heart, subscribe and hit the notification bell to hear more stories of women who transformed their pain into wisdom. Every day, a new woman, a new life lesson. Share this story with someone you love. Sometimes a story like this can change everything. God bless you, and until next time.